ancient village, nestled between towering mountains. A young potter named Roshan worked diligently, day and night, shaping the soft, earthy clay into beautiful, delicate pots. His hands, skilled and steady, transformed raw material into works of art. Each pot he crafted carried his soul, a reflection of his passion and dedication. Yet, despite his hard work, his small shop remained unnoticed. The villagers, busy with their daily lives, walked past Roshan's stall without a second glance. Their eyes were drawn to the more renowned artisans, whose work, though perhaps not as finely crafted, had garnered fame. Roshan's pots, despite their beauty, seemed to fade into the background, unnoticed by those who passed him by. Frustration began to grow inside Roshan. Each day, he toiled with the same care. Yet each night, he closed his shop with an empty heart. Slowly, a bitter thought took root in his mind. Perhaps fate had destined him to be poor. Perhaps there was no place for him in the world of art. No recognition for his craft. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the village, Roshan packed up his unsold pots with a heavy heart. His fingers brushed over the smooth surface of a beautiful pot. He had poured all his effort into it. As he gazed at it, he sighed deeply, feeling as though the world had already decided his fate. But as he walked past the village well, he noticed an old man sitting quietly, filled with a calm wisdom that seemed to see more than what appeared on the surface. This old man, known as a sage, revered throughout the village for his ability to see potential in the most unlikely places. He had a way of looking at people, at situations, and finding meaning where others saw only failure. The sage looked up at Roshan, his gaze gentle yet piercing. "Why do you look so troubled, young potter?" he asked, in a voice soft as the wind. Roshan, weary and weighed down by his thoughts, stopped in his tracks. "I work tirelessly," he said, running a hand over the rough surface of his best pot. "Yet my pots remain unsold. The villagers pass me by as if I do not exist. Perhaps I was never meant to succeed." The sage smiled, a faint twinkle in his eyes. "You seek success, yet you do not give. Tell me, what have you offered to the world beyond your sorrow?" Roshan frowned, confusion clouding his thoughts. "But I have nothing to give," he replied. "I barely earn enough to feed myself." The sage picked up a small, imperfect clay pot from Roshan's stall. It was simple, unadorned, and far from the perfect shapes Roshan often aspired to create. The sage held it in his hands, turning it slowly, inspecting it from every angle. "This pot," he said softly, "though simple, holds water, does it not? Even a humble vessel serves a purpose. And so do you." The words hung in the air, lingering in Roshan's mind, long after the sage had walked away. That night, as Roshan sat alone in his small, dimly lit hut, the sage's words echoed within him. What could he give? What could a poor potter offer to a world that seemed indifferent to him? As he stared at the clay in front of him, the idea came, like a soft spark in the dark. What if he gave? What if, instead of waiting for recognition, he offered his work freely, expecting nothing in return? A gift, not a transaction. At dawn, Roshan woke with a new resolve. He gathered his smallest pots, delicate, simple, yet functional, and placed them in a basket. Instead of waiting idly in his shop, he ventured into the heart of the marketplace. He approached the elderly, the children, and those who had once walked past him, offering them his work. With a warm smile, "A gift for you," he said, his voice carrying the sincerity of his intentions. "Use it well." At first, the villagers were hesitant. They looked at him, unsure of his motives. But as they took the pots into their homes, something began to change. The pots were used to hold water for travelers, to carry flowers in their homes, and even to adorn doorsteps. Slowly, his humble pots became essential, woven into the daily life of the village. The villagers began to see their worth, not just as objects of art, but as functional pieces that served a purpose. A week passed, and Roshan continued to give. His pots, once overlooked, were now found in every corner of the village. And then, one day, a merchant from a nearby city came to the village, drawn by the beauty of the pottery that adorned the homes. "Who made these?" the merchant asked, his eyes wide with admiration. The villagers, eager to share the source of their newfound treasure, pointed to Roshan. The merchant, impressed by the craftsmanship, bought an entire batch of pots to sell in the city. Word of Roshan's skill spread beyond the village, and soon, he found himself receiving orders from distant places. Wealth began to flow in, but something more important had shifted within Roshan. No longer was he a struggling potter. He had become a creator, a giver, one who shaped not just clay, but the very possibilities of life itself. One evening, as Roshan sat by the village well, reflecting on the changes in his life, the sage appeared once again, his eyes twinkling with the same knowing calm. "You see, young potter," the sage said with a soft smile, "the world only gives to those who first learn to give." Roshan bowed deeply, gratitude filling his heart. "And I was never truly poor," he said, his voice steady with the realization that had taken root. "I simply hadn't yet discovered my wealth." The sage nodded, his smile wide and knowing. Under the golden hues of the setting sun, Roshan finally understood the greatest truth of all. Prosperity was never about what one had, but what one was willing to share. Hey there, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I kindly ask you to consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, but it truly means the world to me as a storyteller, knowing that my effort resonates with you. And if you have any thoughts on how I can improve my storytelling or anything else, please leave a comment below. Your feedback helps me grow and create even better content for you. Thanks again for your support. It truly means a lot.